Warning, censorship. Warning, censorship. Warning, censorship. Warning.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Rebel News live stream on this, a Thursday, January 28th, 2021. I'm David Menzies, and as always, on Tuesday and Thursday, I am joined by my lovely co-host somewhere in the hinterland of northern Alberta, Sheila, the She-Devil Gun Reid. Hey, Sheila, have you warmed up after all that reporting outside the Whistle Stop Cafe in Mirror, Alberta?
Yeah, no, it's still like minus 25 out, and I have to head out back on the road today after I get done the live stream. You know, it's cold, but sometimes, especially this last week, it's hard to believe that this is my job, that I'm just traversing all the illegal restaurants that I can find in central Alberta. Spend a couple, 3-4 hours on the road every single day, but it's worth it because you're supporting these restaurants and you're telling their stories about how the lockdown has hurt them and, you know, why they're making this bold and I guess illegal, according to Alberta Health Services, stance to open their doors. But they're all saying, like, look, we got nothing left to lose. You know, and so when the health inspectors show up with a closure order, they're like, yeah, just stick it on the wall beside the other one you gave me. And you closed us in December anyway. So what does that piece of paper mean to me?
I guess it means free wallpaper, Sheila. But, you know, if we turn back the clock just a year ago, could you ever imagine uttering what you just said, illegal restaurants? Yeah. I mean, it's almost like going back a century to the days of Prohibition, speakeasies where booze, which was an illegal substance back then, you'd find a place, there'd be a secret knock on the door, you'd get in, you're always worried about the police coming and doing a raid. And forget about alcohol, forget about marijuana, which is now completely legal. Now the idea of going into a diner somewhere in 2021 Canada and having a burger, shake, and fries is an act of civil disobedience. It's an illegality. I mean, it just sounds so perverse to me, Sheila. I'm not used to this new normal yet.
Yeah, I was actually at a sports bar last night in Sylvan Lake, so that's sort of like a summer community in central Alberta, although people definitely live year-round, but the lake is very busy in the summertime. And it was a sports bar that decided to reopen. And the lady's story is incredible. I mean, she took over the sports bar. Her son is a burn survivor, little boy. And so she's just doing her best to make ends meet. And she fell on the ice and broke her ankle and had to have surgery like 2 days ago. And she said, I don't have a choice. I just got out of surgery. I don't have a choice. I've got people who work for me. I'm going to lose everything. And she said, if they call and say your little guy has to come up to Edmonton for a surgery, I can't afford to go right now because I don't have my doors open. And truly, I believe that rural Alberta is going to save us all. There's something very special about rural Alberta and the people who live there and these little places. And it's the community center. It's, you know, the local meeting place. That's the local diner. It's more than just a place to go get something to eat. It's a place to meet. It's a place where business is done. It's a place where all your friends are. If you can't find them, they're there. And when these little places disappear, they truly disappear forever. And these folks have had enough. And unlike the big cities, everybody knows the diner owner. Everybody knows the people who work there. And so they're coming out to support these places that are reopening because, you know, it's not some faceless restaurant chain. It's, you know, Chris and it's Christy and it's Carlos. It's people that they know and they've known for a long time and they know how they're struggling. And so they don't care. They're showing up risking, you know, a $1,200 fine to the customers to go and eat at these places. They don't care. They say it's worth it.
You know what? I agree with you, Sheila. I think if there is to be a great restaurant or retail rebellion, Alberta would be the most likely province for it to happen. I lived 2 years in Alberta in the 80s. My gist of living there was the fact that Alberta seemed to be the most American of provinces. And when I say American, I don't mean California or New York. I mean Texas. That's the vibe I got living in Alberta. There's an embracing of freedom, of independence, free will. And that was the saddest thing covering the Adamson barbecue here in Toronto. It wasn't the fact that it was brutally shut down, but the fact that all the other restaurants didn't rise up, because if they had, there's just not enough mounted units or prison cells for all these restaurateurs. So my hope is that in Alberta, this is where you're going to see a critical mass, if you will, of rebellious restaurateurs. Again, I can't believe I said that word, rebellious restaurateurs. I mean, being in the restaurant business is about being in the hospitality business, not about the rebellion business.
Well, and especially because the uprising is coming from rural Alberta. So this is where the UCP gets all of their reliable votes from. And they have had it with the government. They are rebelling against the government they voted for. Yeah. And so that is going to send a very strong message to Jason Kenney and the UCP. These people I'm talking to in these restaurants, they say, look, we know the risk, but we also know that we are able to make our own decisions and trust us. We'll know before Alberta Health Services if Susie up the road is sick with COVID. And so we know not to go to the restaurant if she's been there. It's a different culture in rural Alberta, and it's far different than the big cities. And it is sad to see that, Adamson Barbecue, he had to do it alone, and then there was nobody else. Yeah. In Alberta, started with Chris at the Whistle Stop, and now Mom's Diner, and now Jenny's in Bonnyville, and Carlos in Bashaw, and Christy in Sylvan Lake, and Char's Place in northern Alberta. They're not going to be able to find and close them all. And if they try, boy, oh boy, it's going to be ugly. And it's also a different scenario in rural Alberta because the police force is different. It's not the faceless legions of John Tory riding in heavy-handed. Yeah. These are local cops. Everybody knows their name. They play on your hockey team. They cut their grass. They live around the corner. It's terrible. And the people in the diners say it is really terrible that the government is putting our good cops that we like in this adversarial position with us when we like them and we know they have better things to do. But unfortunately today, they have to be the enforcement arm of Dina Hinshaw, the chief medical officer of health. And I think that's a really despicable thing that's happening here. It's dividing these communities who love their cops from their cops.
You're 100% right, Sheila. And at the same time, I'm sure these operators and the patrons that go to these restaurants, they also recognize the hypocrisy from government, as we saw during the Christmas time break. Government officials saying, stay at home, don't even travel locally. We're jetting off to destinations like Hawaii, for goodness sakes. And I think,
to eat in a restaurant in Hawaii. You're not cooking in Hawaii. You don't have a kitchenette in your suite in Hawaii. You're going to the restaurant. Yeah. So if you can go to a restaurant in Hawaii, you can go to one in Mirror and Bashaw and Sylvan Lake and Bicycle and all the other places that are opening up.
100%. But we got off on a real tangerine there.
I know.
You're usually mentioned to the folks, for those who are just tuning in for the first time, what it is that we're ostensibly hoping to accomplish in this hour.
Well, I thought maybe we would stay on track, but we're 10 minutes in. We're way off track. Well, we're not off track. We're just out of order a little bit. Yeah. First of all, I want to thank Andrew Chapados, High Energy Andrew, for filling in for me on Tuesday because I was out on the illegal burger beat here in Alberta. And
burger beat.
I'm full of delicious, delicious freedom, and I'm excited to be back out on the road again today. But I just couldn't fill in the big chair on Tuesday. So thanks again, Andrew. And thanks again, everybody, for being patient with Andrew and David. They're not quite the same as David and me. Anyway, what are we doing here? So this is the Rebel News Daily live stream. The big boss man, Ezra Levant, hosts Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. It's a little difficult for him to host a full 5 days a week because he does run Canada's largest independent news network. So, he's got other things to do. So David and I, or Andrew, or somebody else fills in on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Oh, my phone is going off. I don't know. Quit eavesdropping.
You're a very popular girl, Sheila.
No, Google's eavesdropping on me. Anywho, and this is our chance to interact with our viewer, our chance to interact with each other, and give our viewers their say. So unlike the mainstream media, they want your money, but they don't want to hear from you, and they don't want any feedback from you, and they definitely do not have open comment sections. This is a chance for you to interact with each other in the live chat, but it also gives you a chance to interact with me and David through something called a super chat. And the super chat does two things. First of all, gives you your say, but it also lets you support the work that we do completely willingly. So if you go to the bottom of the live chat, click on the little $sign, throw some money in there. The more money you give, the more characters you get. And you can ask us a question. You can leave us a comment. Maybe there's a topic you want to put on our radar, a compliment. That would be nice. An insult, that's fine too. But constructive criticism is probably better and, more intelligent than just a insult. But we'll take it all. You can have your say. Just throw it in the form of a super chat. And you know what? It gives our viewers a chance to take the show in the direction that they want. Let me just say, and we've got some criticism for this in the past, David and I do our best to stick to the plan of the show. But it is a live show, and sometimes we don't get to everything. And our super chatters can take the show in a direction that we didn't intend, but we welcome it all.
And, folks, one of the reasons I adore Sheila Gunn Reid is that she's one of the few females in my circle who is a pro wrestling fan.
You caught the big boss man.
You said the big boss man. I'm going to put you on the spot, Sheila. The WWE's big boss man, where did he hail from?
Oh, I don't know. I wasn't much of a big boss man fan.
Oh, wow.
Sorry.
Well, for those wondering, it was the Department of Corrections in Cobb County, Georgia.
Oh, yes. No, I thought you meant where's he really from?
You mean that's not where he's really from? What are you saying about pro wrestling, Sheila?
Nothing. It's all real.
Well, you know what? Speaking of big boss men and big boss women, those wearing the blue in uniform, maybe we should talk about our report. It was edited yesterday by Mocha and Efron, and to use one of your quotations, Sheila, we just don't deserve them. They do such hard work. And this was, what was it, a 6 or a 7 camera shoot, including cell phone footage. And so it takes time to put together. They put together what I thought was almost like a little mini movie or documentary.
Yep.
And it was about another Saturday of shame for the second week in a row in Toronto, where for some reason, I don't know if the orders are coming from the premier or the mayor, they're coming from somebody up top. For some reason, there's less freedom at Yonge Dundas Square in Toronto today than there is at Red Square in Moscow, or even Tiananmen Square for that matter. Last I saw, people were still gathering in those other squares. So let's run some footage, and you'll see the proverbial proof in the pudding.
The reason.
Why don't I have the right to speak what's on my heart?
Mainstream media has decided to sit this one out. Nothing to see here, folks.
No for Moscow! No for Moscow! The people who own everything in this world, they tell us we will own nothing and be happy! You must be questioning this!
This is Toronto. This is not North Korea.
You infringed on my
Officer, why are these protesters not allowed to protest and people like you took the knee for Black Lives Matter in the summer?
I'm not going to leave a communist country to my kids or anyone else's kids.
I know the mainstream media's not here because they probably support censorious thugs like you.
I know people need to see this. People need to see this.
If you don't give an ID, that'll be up to trucking. You can't be arrested for that.
That's fine. I've always wanted to go to jail.
So are you saying that media is not exempt? Can you say that on camera? Media is not exempt?
It's exempt, but it's like CD24 and stuff like that, right? Step back. Stay there.
Our ancestors fought and died so that we could be free, so we could have a charter. These men are urinating and defecating on the cenotaphs of every dead soldier across Canada.
So would you like to leave or not? Yeah. Then please leave.
Officer, where do you want her to go?
I'm not talking to you. Please leave.
Story of my life. Well, folks, David Menzies at Yonge Dundas Square, and I really can't believe my eyes. There is the entire public square has been cordoned off by police officers. It looks like the anti-lockdown protesters have been moved to the across the street, and I'm getting a vibe. This is less Toronto, perhaps more Tehran, perhaps more North Korea. And I got one of my cameramen, Mocha, coming here. So let's see how this unfolds.
I am not argue. I tell my rights, and you're not going to have my rights.
Alex?
Okay. No, I know. No.
Okay, ma'am.
I'm going to leave. I said go away. I didn't do anything. That's mine. My property. Give me this. My property. I didn't do anything wrong. Okay.
Are you going to identify yourself, ma'am?
Yes.
Okay. Can you please provide your identification?
Of course.
Ma'am, are you refusing to identify yourself?
No, I'm not.
Okay, so identify yourself.
Okay, so you want my
No, we're not walking away. Now you're under... Okay.
Can you guys just get a little bit of...
On the press.
Okay, that's fine. You don't need to get in the way.
No, I need to record
No. You can move back. Move back out of the way, sir.
No, I need to record today.
Sir, move back out of the way. You can record all you want.
Yeah,
Just
let me
move back out of the way. Give them some space,
This
sir.
is space. This is 6 feet.
Move back, sir.
I'm okay right here.
Everything's being recorded. There's like 15 people recording, including officers.
Oh, so we're going to waste thousands of dollars in tips to pull these officer cams?
It's here.
It doesn't work like that.
It's here. Okay? Just give these people...
Yeah, this is more than 6 feet apart from the ladies.
I know, but listen. Give them space.
Yeah, this is space.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay, yeah. Oh, no.
Step back! You can record, but step back. Thank you.
Okay, don't touch me.
No! Step back! I said move one step back. There you stay there!
Back off, okay?
I'm filming. I'm on public property. Dude, you realize you just touched me? I'm on public property. You just assaulted me. I'm with media. You just touched me. I'm allowed to film on public property. You already screwed up. Why would you touch me?
Well, Sheila, I had three main takeaways from last Saturday, and I just jotted down some notes. First of all, there's the hypocrisy in terms of what kind of protests are allowed.
Yeah.
If it's about so-called racial injustice, Black Lives Matter, Afro-Indigenous Rising, that's okay. In fact, the police will bend a knee for that. Peacefully protesting, and I mean truly peacefully protesting. I've been covering these people since April of last year, and there's been no incidents, Sheila. In fact, there's been punches thrown at these people gathering by the pro-lockdown people. And there's been no vandalizing of statues. There's been no punches thrown as we were attacked at Nathan Phillips Square when we covered those thugs called Afro-Indigenous Rising. So there's a double standard here. Secondly, you saw that wall of blue or black, or I guess more appropriately black and blue, given how the police were acting that day, cordoning off the entire square, Young Dundas Square, to disperse the protesters from the square. And in that, Sheila, they were 100% effective. But they did not disperse the protest. It simply went literally up Yonge Street to other venues. And in fact, there'll be another video coming out where, led by Chris Sky, that character, 3 shops, Shoppers Drug Mart, Longo's, and of course the Jeff Bezos-owned Whole Foods, were basically invaded, for lack of a better word, by about 100 protesters walking in to buy stuff, not to steal stuff, but they were maskless, so you can just imagine how the COVID Karens lost their you-know-what about that. And the third thing, based on my observation, here's what you cannot do in public anymore if it's anti-lockdown. You cannot espouse your feelings in a megaphone. You will be thrown in a paddy wagon. You cannot stand by yourself on a street corner. You will be fined. You cannot wave a Canadian flag in Toronto, Canada, folks. And I thought one of the most surreal elements of all, Sheila, and I wouldn't have believed it if I didn't see it with my own eyes, right in the northbound lane of Yonge Street, there was a Dodge Caravan minivan that was stopped for a red traffic light, and it had slogans, anti-lockdown slogans written on it, nothing vulgar or profane, and a police officer made a beeline to the van and nailed the lady with a highway traffic offense for not properly wearing your seatbelt. I don't even know what that means, Sheila. Either you're wearing your seatbelt or you're not wearing your seatbelt. But out of all the cars in downtown Toronto that day, the minivan with the anti-lockdown messaging got a ticket. How petty can you get?
When I was watching that last night, after it went up, after we had gone through it and made it look beautiful. By the way, that new sting that they have, that new opening where it shows our Rebel News logo at the very beginning, I think that looks great in gray, by the way. It looks amazing, especially when you're going to watch something that is so sinister right after. I think that the gray looks great. But you just said something. You're not allowed to espouse your feelings in a megaphone. But I don't think that's true. I think you're not allowed to espouse pro-freedom feelings in a megaphone. Good point. Because if you went down there and you were chanting that, any number of BLM or Marxist slogans, or let's say it's Nakba Day down there, and you're down there to scream about how evil the state of Israel is, that would be perfectly fine. That's free speech. And I agree, it's free speech, generally speaking. But it's not about being a nuisance with a megaphone if you're worried about noise or whatever. That's clearly not the case here, because they, John Tory, allow all those other things to happen in the city of Toronto, including nude bike riding. But you cannot go down and protest the lockdown in a free society outside. That's the thing, too. These guys are outside. What's the rate of transmission outside? Nobody seems to know. Obviously, these are not super spreader events down there. Every single week, we'd be seeing outbreaks directly tied to the repeated protests. Yeah. And trust me, John Tory and Doug Ford and your chief medical officers who do nothing except read the papers stuffed in front of them for the cameras. They would be the first people to tell us that these protests were leading to outbreaks, and they're not. So why the heavy-handedness? This looks worse. And I hate to say it, this looks worse than when Kian and Efron were in Hong Kong. When the CCP were cracking down on peaceful protests in Hong Kong, this looks worse and more violent. And I think maybe it feels worse too, because we like to say we're better than what happens over there. But we are in Alberta. We certainly aren't in Toronto.
You know, Sheila, thank you for reminding me of some other protests. And I'm embarrassed because I've actually covered them for Rebel News, and I completely forgot. There's been so much on our plates. But Al-Quds Day, which is an annual Jew hatred fest, they get a police escort right down University Avenue so they can chant hateful slogans at the U.S. consulate. And some of those people, as I've discovered, are violent. And then, of course, there's that naked bike ride day. I think, if I'm going by memory, they're all about, they're against your carbon footprint. They're against fossil fuels. It's all about bike riding. Funny thing is, though, Sheila, you notice the naked bike riding event happens in June, not January. I'll tell you, if you had that naked bike riding event in Toronto today, you'd freeze your ball bearings off. I'll tell you that much. So suddenly,
I'll buy them some. I'll buy them some carbon offsets so they put on some
I forgot. That's
whatever
right.
it takes.
You can buy a pollution license and still call yourself a green person. Yeah. So and ultimately, what this gets down to, Sheila, is that we are told repeatedly that what's driving these decisions, even by conservative heads of government. Such as Jason Kenney, Doug Ford, Pallister in Manitoba, who might be the worst, is the science. But how do you square the fact that the Wuhan virus recognizes the science inherent to, it won't infect those protesting for racial injustice, for you're reducing your carbon footprint and, taking a stand against climate change. The Al-Quds people, it knows enough not to infect those large gatherings. But if you're anti-lockdown, this virus, this super intelligent thing, Sheila, it doesn't like that, and it will attack those people. I mean, how can they possibly play the science card when it comes to this double standard and hypocrisy?
They can't, but they'll never get any criticism for it because we have, what you said, 7 cameras. I know everybody on our team who could work in Toronto on these days, they're down there. Even if it's their day off, they go down there in solidarity because they know we need extra hands, because they care about freedom. And you have to be there to cover freedom being stomped on in your own city. That's our team. And the mainstream media is absent. They are enabling John Tory and Doug Ford in their civil liberties violations because they refuse to spotlight it. Let me tell you, if those were Black Lives Matter marchers, 10 Black Lives Matter marchers, 15 environmentalists down there at Yonge and Dundas, City TV, CBC, they'd have the satellite trucks down there and interviewing everybody about the climate emergency. Cops are putting their knees on the necks of old ladies for holding signs. Nobody says a thing. It is outrageous, and shame on the mainstream media. I know you people hate watch us. Shame on you. How dare you even look yourself in the mirror every day and call yourself a journalist while that's happening in your city? It could not be more easy to report on. If you don't want to get in the heart of a super spreader event, stand across the street and take images of it like it's wildlife photography. Whatever you have to do, because you're missing the biggest story of the year because you don't want to tell it because it doesn't fit your little cute boxed in narrative of stay home, stay safe.
You nailed it, Sheila, 100%. And also to add an exclamation mark to your explanation why the mainstream media decided to sit this one out. As our big boss man, Ezra Levant, likes to say, the media have gone from watchdogs to lapdogs.
Yeah.
They are bought and paid for with government subsidies. And I guess you really don't want to rattle the cages too much. You really don't want to do all that muckraking to bite, if it means biting the hand that feeds. So there you go. There's the unspoken strategy as to why you'll never see CBC, CTV, Global, and the rest at one of these things. And I think there's so much wokeness in these newsrooms right now, Sheila. They actually approve of these clampdowns on our freedom, presumably even freedom of the press. Can it get more perversely ironic than that?
Oh, it's just an absolute disgrace. It is an absolute disgrace. And shame on Doug Ford.
Yeah.
Because you know what? Those people are Doug Ford voters.
I know.
They're not going to show up at the polls. Those are the people Doug Ford said that he would defend from government overreach, from slander from the mainstream media. And Doug Ford is now participating in it. And you know what else? Not only will those people not show up for Doug Ford at the polls, but it's not going to buy him any reprieve from the media.
Oh,
He
no.
should be ashamed for selling his soul. For what? I have no idea. I don't know what he gains out of all of this.
No, I don't either, Sheila, and we got to get to some super chats. But I want to say this about Doug Ford. You know, going back to April, that's when he labeled his supporters as a bunch of yahoos. And I had somebody say, wow, that was like Doug Ford's Hillary Clinton basket of deplorables moment. And I said, yes and no. Yeah, he was defaming a bunch of people, but at least Hillary, running as a Democrat, was turning her ire on Trump supporters.
Yeah.
Doug Ford was going after his own base. That's crazy.
You know, where are the conservative politicians to see what's happening in Toronto and say, holy hell, we don't want to look like Hong Kong. What's happening here? Where's your Solicitor General or your Justice Minister in Ontario to say, holy, pump the brakes. We got to get a handle on the police force in Toronto. I know in Alberta, when our sheriffs got heavy-handed, our Justice Minister intervened. They said, we're investigating. I mean, when the police are doing things they're not supposed to, that's why you have a Justice Minister to oversee all of this. Where's your so-called Conservative Justice Minister in Ontario to say, good God, at some point, do we care about civil liberties in Toronto? I guess not. It's like a city-state where freedom doesn't exist.
Sheila, I can tell you what the Attorney General's office in Ontario is doing. They're writing threatening letters to toy shop owners and boutique operators saying, you face imprisonment if you dare have the temerity to open your doors. And even Ezra Levant got a letter from the AG's office for the egregious publication of a handout photo. What that means, folks, is that, you know, at the OPP, they have press release material like all other kind of organizations. It's a generic shot of an OPP officer, and they're threatening us with what? Copyright violation for using this. It's an almost generic shot of a police officer for our Fight the Fines campaign. So that's where a Conservative government AG's office, at least in Ontario, that's where they're focusing their ire, Sheila. Super chats. Okay, Justin.
I know, Justin. I can hear you. You know, it is funny, though, to see these Toronto cops, how they seem pretty enthusiastic about what they get to do versus if you see my coverage from the Whistle Stop, from the Noble Fox that should be coming out today, and from the sports bar in Sylvan Lake, the cops don't want any part of this. Yeah. They're sheepish. They're apologetic. They stop and talk to the patrons. They're there because AHS asked them to be there, Alberta Health Services, and they are absolutely not happy about being the enforcement arm of the health bureaucracy, but that's how things are structured right now. But they don't want any part of this. They're at arm's length as much as they can. They're almost apologetic and sheepish versus the enthusiasm and aggressiveness of these Toronto cops. What is going on in the policing culture in that city?
I don't know, Sheila, and I'm sure there are cops, just to be fair, that they're saying,
sure.
I didn't sign up for this. We got to go to the head. We got to find out, is it Mayor Tory directing this? Is it the public health officer, Cruella DeVille? Or is it the Premier himself? Who knows? We better start reading some of those super chats because Justin's getting mean mad behind the booth there.
He's getting a little anxious. Okay, let's go. Lisa Proust gives us $5. Sheila, I just sent you a tweet. Property management of my building is asking for age confirmation. Anyone over 70 by December 2020. Isn't this illegal? I cannot give legal advice on the air, especially since I'm not a lawyer, but that seems a little strange, Lisa. Maybe send me an email and I will have a peek around and see what I can find out about the legalities of that.
I think Lisa lives in Montreal, I do believe. So, I mean, they've gone bonkers there with that curfew. So is this the next, front? And they're going to find out you're maybe too old and therefore too susceptible to the Wuhan virus for you to live in this building? That could be a heck of a story, Sheila.
Yeah, or are they going to move the old people to a certain floor so that they can't mix and mingle with the young super spreaders? Who knows, right? It's weird. Why does the property management need to know when your birthday is? Yeah. Kane Enmark gives us $5. Had a good time at the Whistle Stop. I was sitting with two couples I didn't know. I'm not dead for now. It was cool to see Sheila. Shout out to Justin.
Wow.
Oh,
I got it.
Justin says that's why he wanted us to get to the super chats, is so that he could celebrate himself with a guitar riff. I saw Kane and Mark at the Whistle Stop. I ran into a lot of people that I know from online, but not in real life, that came out to support the Whistle Stop. They've been so busy. They're running out of food. They're running out of burgers. They're running out of fries. And people, because it's so busy in there, you have people like who don't know each other that are all just plunked together at a big table, making new friends. And I thought that was really great, too.
And, I really loved that lady that worked there that you gave an illegal hug to, Sheila. She's wonderful.
She's great. And she's like at all the other restaurants that are opening up. She shows up with her little protest sign saying, like, we support, the Whistle Stop supports what you're doing. She's so great.
Beautiful.
And that's the thing. Like, they're also sort of, she's become a bit of a therapist. Because people are calling her to say, like, our business is closed. This is the effect it's had on us. Thank you for doing what you're doing. And it gets hard on her, too, because, she feels like now they're carrying this burden for all the other restaurants that can't reopen quite yet. Anyway, I'll carry on. Sorry, Justin. Proud Boys Calgary gives us $2.79. Welcome to Sheila Gunn Reid's Freedom Diners, Drive-Ins, and Dives. None of them are dives. None of them are dives. But the Whistle Stop is actually a drive-in movie theater, too, in the summertime, which I thought was really great.
Really?
And I'll be back with that. Yeah. At the height of the pandemic, when they, closed everything, Chris Scott, who owns the Whistle Stop, was like, well, we got to give this town something to do. So he bought this big, huge projector screen and set up a drive-in theater in his parking lot, and they made popcorn and served food to the cars, like an old-timey drive-in movie theater. And then AHS said, oh, you can't do that because I don't know. Again, super spreader event. And but he pushed back. He basically did it and asked for permission later, and they changed the rules so that he could. So that's the kind of guy he is.
But
yeah,
Sheila,
they should have.
Again, that would be the safest way to watch a movie. You're in a car with the windows up with your own family members, right? It's almost like the Church of God in Elmer, where they were having drive-in sermons and they were getting harassed. But there's no danger. You're in your own little ecosystem inside your vehicle. I mean, it's crazy. And in the case of Elmer, 300 meters down the road, there's a jam-packed, no-frills supermarket, and that's okay. Again, where's the science?
None of it makes sense. And the thing about these small rural communities is that you cannot take them apart. Yeah. They will be together. They refuse to be divided from each other by the government. So if you try to keep them apart, you're just going to have them doing exactly what Chris at the Whistle Stop is doing, saying enough is enough. It's for economic survival, but it's also that we are a community and this is where we meet. And sorry. Bring on the fines, bring on the tickets, bring on the court appearances. It doesn't matter. We're going to do what we do. And you can sit in a cubicle in Edmonton and tell us that we're going to kill people, but that's not what's happening here. Let's keep going. Annalisa S., 699. Good morning, my favorite rebels. Hi, Menzies. Wink, wink.
Oh. Did she write that, or are you doing that?
That's me doing that. Proud Boys Calgary gives us 699. When will Mr. O'Toole join his leftist friends in labeling the UCP, CPC, and Republicans as terror organizations? Might as well decline my ballot next election. Yeah.
I fear you're just one of millions that might be doing so, sadly. What a tragedy again, Sheila.
Yeah. You know, there's actual real terrorist organizations that the Liberals actually are ready to do business with, like Hamas, like Hezbollah. They give money to the UN agencies that are supposed to help refugees in the Palestinian territories. Yeah. That goes to the hands of terrorists. And those are real terrorist organizations that the Liberals should be doing something about, at least cutting our money off that goes to them. And they're too busy broadening the term of the word terrorist to mean people we don't like.
But Sheila, let's be fair. Those are mostly peaceful terrorists.
Right. That's why they put their bombs at the bottoms of schools. Let's keep going. Annalisa S., in Bonnyville, a couple of restaurants opened. Good for them. The meltdown on our local rant and rave is hilarious. Is it like the same three Karens that are saying that you're going to be killing people? Because they could probably just stay home. I know that Jenny's has reopened in Bonnyville, and I'll try to be up there in the next couple of days because I hear the food is great. And I'm willing to drive the couple hours to find out.
I get triggered when I hear the word Bonnyville. I got a massive speeding ticket there, so massive I couldn't afford the fine. And I had to do 3 days of community service by picking up the trash to pay off my ticket. So you go to Bonnyville, I'll just stay right here at Rebel headquarters, okay?
I love Bonnyville. It's a great rodeo community, oil patch community, ATV community. Bonnyville is one of the freest places in this whole province. And so for you to get in trouble there, you had it coming.
Maybe I'll have to go back. But you do the driving, okay?
I will. Chris Lynch gives us $5. Lac La Biche and Bonnyville mayor sat down at one of the two restaurants that opened up yesterday in Bonnyville. I have photos of the mass support. Well, that's very exciting. Like I said, I'm headed up to Jenny's. I hope it was at Jenny's, and I hope Jenny has pictures because that would be great. Because the other restaurants are opening up and they don't have local politicians' support. So it's great to see that in Lac La Biche and Bonnyville, they're being supportive of the restaurants who have just had enough.
That is huge, actually, because I don't know of any elected official of any political stripe of any level that has been going to any of the so-called illegal openings. So I think that's news. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. If you heard any other elected official supporting the likes of a Whistle Stop or an Adamson barbecue?
Well, I know Glenn Carrott. He was a town councillor in Innisfail, and he's with United We Roll. He resigned because his council was giving him a very hard time about supporting these illegal reopenings because he supported Natalie Klein, Ralph Klein's niece, when she reopened her barber shop. He was there, took a lot of heat from council, and he said, screw it, I resign. Also, I'm running for mayor now, so suck it. So he was...
He'll probably win.
I hope so. He was out and about yesterday. He was in Sylvan Lake supporting the reopening of that sports bar there. So, he has, although he's technically not an elected official anymore, but he's really been the only one. So I'm happy to see that the mayor of Bonnyville is supporting these restaurants. I know I've seen a lot of messages from the local Chamber of Commerces in and around Alberta. Chambers of Commerce, I think is how you say it, not Chambers of Commerces. But from the local chamber, they've come out in support of ending the lockdowns and saying it's time to reopen everything. But to see the mayor sit down, that's really something.
That is.
Imperium Commenting Network $5. Just a little joke for you all to enjoy. I'm Joe Biden, and I forgot this message. Joe Biden 2021. I can't even believe he's the president, like the leader of the free world. He has his finger on the nuclear codes, and I don't think he could remember his phone number or like his unlock code to get into his house. Like, I don't think that he's there.
Did you see a speech the other yesterday? I think it was Sheila, where he said, "When I was with part of the Obama administration, and what we did to reduce the auto industry," and then he corrected himself. Bolster the auto industry. Actually, Joe, if you look at the numbers, you had it right the first time for a change. You reduced it.
Yeah. I think we're going to have probably 8 years of gaffes like that.
Oh, God. 8.
Can you imagine the cognitive state of Joe Biden in 8 years from now?
No. Well, I mean, Sheila, no, I won't go there. Keep going with the super chat.
Okay, perfect. Wise and Frosty gives us $5. Hey, guys, have you looked at minus 19 today? It's basically, or at C19. It's basically legalized election fraud. This will be passed before the election. Oh, sorry. There's my problem right there. Let's start that again.
Okay.
Wise and Frosty. Hey, guys, have you looked at C19? I think you mean Bill C19. It's basically legalized election fraud. This will be passed before the election, and C10 censorship will follow. Yeah, I think Ezra's show tonight, the Ezra Levant show, Justin, correct me if I'm wrong, is on Stephen Gilbo, I don't know how to say his name. I don't care because he's a censor, and his proposed censorship of the internet, which is directed at us, really. It's not directed at CBC or CTV or Global. They're getting money, and we're going to get wiped right off the face of the internet.
This is the former convicted criminal all of a sudden having the moral authority to say what is proper speech on the internet. You can't even write this stuff, eh, Sheila?
Yeah. Chris Lynch gives us $2. Also, no cops or tickets in Bonnyville yesterday. That's great. That's good to hear. So far, in these central Alberta places, they aren't getting tickets, and the customers aren't getting tickets. But they did issue the whistle stop after 5 days of being open, a summons to appear way down the road in April. And so hopefully that'll get kicked down the road, and we're going to be helping them through fightthefines.com. Oh, by the way, if you guys would like to send a message to Premier Jason Kenney that it's time to reopen all of our restaurants, our pubs, our diners, our cafes, to eat-in service, you can sign our petition at savethecafe.com.
Beautiful.
I should have mentioned that earlier. Let's keep going. Solid as a B-ball gives us $5. Feeling a bit down, can you each give a point of optimism you may see with regard to lockdown ending? Also, shout out to Justin. Bring back Guitar Hero days. There we go. David, why don't you go first on the optimism?
On the optimism, you know what? I got nothing. I'm sorry, but I just, I feel personally, and for all the staff at the Rebel, I'm grateful that I have a job because I know so many people that do not. And I think the one optimistic thing is that we here, it's not, just a 9-to-5 job and, and we're just gratifying our bank accounts, Sheila, but it's about telling the stories that remain untold from the mainstream media, doing the work of the Canadian Civil Liberties Association, which seems to have some fetish right now about just getting violent offenders out of prison, probably so they can put illegal restaurateurs in. It's all about social distancing. And in fact, Sheila, doing the work of the official opposition. I mean, these are softballs over home plate for O'Toole and company to hit out of the ballpark. And they're scared of their own shadows. They're like so many Wiarton Willies on Groundhog Day. And to me, when I go home, after, presenting some of these stories that would otherwise never never get seen, Sheila, that's optimistic for me that we're still on the air doing this.
I remain immensely proud of Alberta and our culture and our commitment to freedom, that even if our government has lost its way, is, bending the knee to the public health necromancers, that the normal people in this province, the normal restaurateurs, the normal customers, they're not scared. They are going to do what they do. They're going to not ask permission, maybe ask a little forgiveness later on, and they are going to make a move to survive. And so for seeing them stick their necks out like this, and it is a phenomenon happening all across the province, like top to bottom, I cannot keep up. And the fact that I cannot keep up, that it's not just one guy, Adam Skelly, that it is dozens of people. I think 40 restaurants opened up yesterday night.
Wow. That's what we need, Sheila. Critical mass.
It's critical mass. Yeah. And it's not just the restaurateurs. It's their communities. It's their customers. It's people calling from the UK to mirror Alberta to say, we saw your coverage on Rebel News and I had to call you and I had to cheer for you to keep going. And so that is my optimism, that, like David, I'm telling the story. Like, people are saying, like, Sheila, you're amazing for covering this story or whatever. I don't feel amazing. I feel lucky, and I feel grateful that I have the opportunity to have this job that allows me to talk about the things that I care about and give voice to people just like me, small town Albertans who are just grinding it out and trying to make a difference. And I'm grateful that we get to tell their stories because, like David says, those stories would be completely ignored by the mainstream media. And another point of optimism, I know I'm going on, but fightthefines.com. It is our largest civil liberties project to date. And for me, I have great optimism in and pride in the work that we are doing to help everyday normal people. We are taking civil liberties back in this country, one ticket at a time. And it's not just the people who are getting the tickets. It's not the journalists who are interviewing the people. It's not the lawyers who are working on legal strategy. It's everybody at home who's kicking some money in at fightthefines.com. People who haven't gotten tickets, but say, the hell with this. I got to help these people, and we've got to put these governments right again. That makes me very optimistic because it means that there's a groundswell of normal people who want to see change.
And you know what, Sheila, much as we love our cameramen and film editors too, I want to give a shout out to our lawyers. They are so hardworking. They are so smart. And they have to be, because we're going up against a government with endless resources, i.e. taxpayer dollars. And I know lawyers don't often hear compliments, so I just want to say to our legal team, you are doing an absolutely amazing job.
We have an incredible, started off, I guess, as a paralegal legal secretary, but she's a lawyer now again, who joined the team. And I don't know if I should say her name on air, but she took the Fight the Fines thing that I had been working on and turned it into an assembly line. But she also has an incredible eye and an incredible heart for the people that she's helping. And so I think she might be watching, she might not be watching. And I don't know if
she's not watching, Sheila. She's way too busy.
She's working. But if she is watching, I appreciate all the work that she does, because she came on board, she hit the ground running, and she took something from me that I was trying to create and allowed me to go back to doing journalism again. So thank you.
Fantastic.
Okay, let's get to the rest of oh my goodness, we only have 6 minutes left in the show. Wes Hammermeister gives us $5, no super chat. Solid as a b-ball, $5. Says per CT or PCR CT thresholds, mainstream media is on the run. Shout out to Ezra Levant. Didn't even know that he was running for leader of the official opposition party. We are the de facto opposition party.
Yeah,
for sure. ACKE 8660, $50. Holy cow. Thank you very much. And it's just an emoji, a giant pear character waving flags and turning around making the buildings in front of them tremble. Oh, Grinds My Gears gives us $69.99, and I don't see a super chat either. No wonder Justin was trying to hustle us along on the super chats. Vince Axis Geo, $5. Woodlands County, Alberta, according to Alberta Health Services, has a population of 1,336 and 2 cases. This multiplies up to 149 per 100,000 and has become an enhanced lockdown. Isn't that sick? Isn't that sickening? You know, in Woodlands County, you know everybody who lives there. So you know they're sick, you know, just to leave them alone and talk to them in 2 weeks from now. It's much different than living in an urban center where you're in the grocery store all the time. Let's keep going. Imperium Commenting Network, $5. The country my grandfather served in the Navy no longer exists. Welcome to Canistan. Alex gives us $5. What do you guys think about hedge funds getting punched in the mouth for billions by a wacky crew of internet people? I just started trying to follow along with all of that this morning because I have completely missed it because I'm just eating my way across central Alberta for freedom. And so I haven't really seen it, but I'll try to catch up with it. And maybe we could circle back to this conversation on Tuesday. And I bet you Ezra will probably have something to say about it tomorrow, because I know that he's following it pretty closely. I was trying to do my learning from his Twitter feed, but I just ran out of time before I had to come on the air.
Yeah, I only learned about this literally as I was leaving my home for the office, Sheila, but it sounds like a hell of a story.
Yeah. Hugh Prendergast gives us $13.99. Menzies, do the fuzz watching this ever do any super chats? Oh, I don't know.
What?
Could be.
Sheila, could you repeat that? You cut out there for a second.
He says, do the police watching this, obviously watching the live stream, ever do any super chats?
You know, that's a good question. I mean, you know, there's a degree of anonymity, so some of the super chats you read could be police. I know one of the comments on that video from a police officer, again, I don't have a name, but so I'm just going by face value, but he said he's a retired police officer with 30 years of service. And my questions about what's the difference when it comes to protests are completely valid. And so that gives me optimism, Sheila, that there are, you know, men and women in law enforcement, either retired or active, that they're not on side with this. So yeah, circling back to that optimism question there.
Yeah, I think you're right. I know that there are quite a few people who say they are police officers on my Twitter feed who they're anonymous, obviously, who are against it. I have police officers in my family who would not be for any of this. They've got better things to do, especially in rural Alberta, than be the enforcement arm of Dina Hinshaw. Let's keep going. AMT gives us $2. Are any police officers against this tyranny? I think we just answered that. I think severely there are people who get into policing because they care about freedom and they want to get real criminals off the street and not put their boots in grandma's back. And I'm sure they're against this tyranny. And I think that we will probably see early retirements because of a lot of this.
Wow.
Joy Pickering, $20 per character, looking at himself in the mirror saying, thanks for being you, with hearts popping out of his eyes. Space Dave, $2,005. At this point, shouldn't we just do a giant class action lawsuit against municipal, provincial, and federal level? This is out of control. Kane Enmark is $5. You guys have a list of what shops are open. I want to plan my weekend. See everybody at Calgary Freedom Walk on Saturday. I will not be there. I'll be busy. I'll be out on the road eating for freedom. But I think we used to update the I Will Open page. Maybe we should plant some of these stories there too, if that were possible.
I like that. Eating for freedom. Sheila, that's my kind of hunger strike.
That's the opposite of a hunger strike. I eat clubhouses, I eat tacos, I have hamburger, steak, poutine. I just munching my way to liberty.
Yeah, let the authorities understand that. Sheila and I will not stop eating until you lift this lockdown.
Yeah. You know what, David? It was so nice last night to go out for a beer and chicken wings with my friends in Sylvan Lake. It felt so normal to see everybody like smiling and joking and faces uncovered and just like cheersing. And it's the new normal does not compare to the old normal. That's for sure.
100%. Those days, sadly, Sheila, they seem like distant memories to me. I mean, one thing, I hate about covering stories when we go out into the field is there's literally nowhere to sit down and have refreshments. And also, so many places have closed their washroom facilities. It's a big issue, and it's, I dream of the days that you just described, going to a restaurant, having a beer, eating chicken wings, and not have to worry about some plan about where I'm going to use a bathroom. And it's incredible we're in this stage in the first place.
And in Alberta, it was only taken away from us in December.
Yeah.
And so we've reached our breaking point already. I want to know what's wrong with you, Toronto. What's wrong with you? Let's keep going because it's already 11 o'clock. And Andrew Chapados would like me to do a 30-second update on Fund the Grind, if possible. He says he's going to do a story with them next week where they are delivering the funds to one of our I Will Open restaurants. And that's all the information I have. And he asked me to do 30 seconds, so I'm just talking now to fill up my 30-second commitment to Andrew Chapados. And we have lots of super chats.
Justin, so no need to run that promo, or Mr. Producer? No.
Maybe we'll go out on the promo.
I have... Oh, no. He was
okay, let's go.
But I do have something here. It's written on from Mr. Producer. Promo Andrew show tonight. Guest is Sydney Watson. Is that correct? Yeah. Okay, then. All right, then. We'll do that. We'll promo.
I just what do these people live on? I think that there are a lot of people out there who try to excuse their own lack of, personal responsibility or self-accountability and put that blame onto others, saying that, they have a privilege or they have this or they have that, when in reality it takes some looking inward to realize it's actually your own actions that have put you where you are, and passing the blame, passing the buck to someone else to basically say, oh, boo-hoo, woe is me, I live in a world where skinny people get to do all these things that I don't get to do. Honey, no one's force feeding you donuts. You can eat healthy, you can go to the gym, you can lose weight, with the exception of people who, are overweight due to health complications or, medications that they're taking. I have a lot of sympathy for those people because they often get lumped in with the obesity epidemic.
Wow, I'll tune into that show just to hear that gorgeous accent. The way she says donuts is fantastic. And Mr. Producer, that show is on tonight. Is that correct? Fantastic. Well, that's great news for Andrew, Sheila, because, Andrew's show used to be on Saturday. And some of it's on Saturday for YouTube, in which case Andrew still has to compete with Saturday morning cartoons. So anyway, it's good that we can get tonight's all to himself.
What year is this that you think they only show cartoons on Saturdays? Anyways. I'm feeling personally attacked by Sydney because I just went off about how I'm eating my way to freedom. And she's like, honey, no one's force feeding you donuts. No, the government is making me eat donuts because I will eat them until we are free.
Yeah, and you know what? Here in Ontario, Sheila, as you well know, the gyms are closed, but Premier Doug Ford, he sends out videos insisting that we stay in our basements baking cherry cheesecake. At the end of this pandemic, I really want to find out what the obesity rate is, the increase in diabetes and other weight-related diseases. You can't go to a gym, but the Premier himself says bake and eat cherry cheesecake. Sounds like a plan.
Also, Justin, thanks for not warning me when we were coming out of that promo because I was scratching my nose. So thanks. That was an awkward cut back to Sheila, leaned back in her chair, scratching her nose. So anyway. Okay, let's keep going. Lynn gives us $5. Is it just me or are most of the people being targeted, arrested at the protest all alone? I don't know, David, you'd have to answer that. Shout out to Justin and the whole Rebel team.
There were several people alone, some of whom were just standing on a street corner. And I made a joke at one point. I said, given that, prostitution is legal, that could be a lady of the night standing at a street corner. They'll ignore her for plying her trade. But if you're an anti-lockdown protester, not even saying anything, just standing there, you could get arrested or ticketed. I'm telling you, I saw it with my own eyes, folks.
Okay, let's keep going. Grumpy old gargoyle, $5. May the ghosts of Flanders haunt these people until their dying day. Hugh Prendergast gives us $3.99. Where's O'Toole? Useless. Mike Lazinski gives us $10. People say that the government is going against their Charter of Rights, hasn't read Section 33 of the Notwithstanding Clause. They can essentially be a tyranny for 5 years. Am I wrong? I really hope so. The government is not supposed to make laws that supersede the charter, even in an emergency. Yeah. But they really love these emergency declarations because it gives them special powers, and it enumerates special powers to their chief medical officer of health necromancers to control their lives. I never want to hear the name of a chief medical officer of health ever again when this is over, if it is ever over. I don't want to know who they are. I don't care. I don't want to hear about Fauci, Hinshaw, whoever the one is in Ontario. I don't want to hear about Bonnie Henry. I don't want to know their names. I just want them to be anonymous, faceless bureaucrats.
But they're not faceless. Well, they are faceless in a way, Sheila, because they're masking up all the time. And Fauci, who went from 0 masks in terms of advice last year, is now advocating doubling and tripling masks. So how do you like them apples?
Oh, it doesn't matter to him. He's the highest paid bureaucrat in the federal bureaucracy in the United States. Yeah. Yeah, gross. Gregory B. gives us $10. Thanks for all the Rebel does. With Mr. O'Toole becoming such a disappointment leading the Conservatives, what are the options left for a vote to support the views on the right? I don't know. I just don't want to give you political advice in that way. But I would suggest that you put the pressure on your local MP if your local MP is indeed conservative, and get them to do conservative things. They need to hear from you. And they also need to hear that you will not be donating to them anymore until they straighten up and fly right. Did I freeze up? I don't know.
No, you did not.
Okay, perfect. Catherine S. gives us $5, says end the lockdowns. C182 OPR $5. I'm done with Doug the Thug and his clueless band of armed goons. Can we start a petition to have the Canadian flag removed from the TPS uniform? Jurgen Adai, $5. I don't know if that's how I say it. Hey, guys, just wondering if you real journalists had any idea on when Trudeau and his ilk will be bringing in butt swabbing. Oh. Could you ask him? I saw what you're talking about, and I don't know. I think is it the Chinese that are considering butt swabbing to check for COVID? I thought it was a respiratory illness.
It would sound like something coming out of China. I mean, Sheila, in December, I had that commentary where the Chinese Aviation Authority was recommending flight attendants wear diapers instead of using the loo on transcontinental flights, also to ostensibly prevent them from getting the Wuhan virus. So, yeah, there's some kind of fixation going on there, I think.
Oh, Lord. It's 8 minutes after 11. We got to get through this because I got to get on the road. I got to get eaten. I got to get eaten my way across the prairies. My stomach's rumbling for freedom. Okay, let's go. SA 1399. Doug Ford knows that he won't be voted in anymore, so he makes sure he has enough money now. He's now a businessman with political power, not a politician. Yep. I wouldn't have a problem with a businessman with political power. That was sort of Donald Trump. I'm fine with that. But Donald Trump actually did the opposite of enriching himself. He actually made himself less wealthy by going into politics. I think Doug Ford is doing the opposite, maybe. I'm not sure. But I know Deco Labels makes those things that go on the floor and tell you where to stand. Zen AX gives us $5. Doug Ford sold his soul for a tub of lard so you can continue to make fatty cakes and get greasier than he already is.
And Kim? You know what, Sheila? I'm going to make a wager very quickly. A lot of those people, you've just read 3 anti-Doug Ford messages. I'm betting you a donut that in 2018, those people voted for Doug Ford. That's how bad it is.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Kim Naherniak gives us $6.99. Can't we have a referendum over these restrictions? I don't know. Depends. Each province has different rules when it comes to citizen-initiated referendum. Yeah. Randy Smith, $5. I'm donating $5 for every flying guitar today. I'll just eat noodles instead of caviar. There we go. David Smith, $10. You guys are amazing. Love to watch you from Arizona. Wow. Cops are the cops are cowards and bullies. No integrity. Selling soul for a paycheck. False dough is gross. Don Sharp, you made a meme of me in sitting at my desk, but going across central Alberta, where Sheila's eating next. He posted that to Twitter. Thanks, Don. He gives us $27.99, and I don't see a super chat, but it's Don. He can just text me. He knows. You're gonna die. Gives us $5. Hair salons are open, but little restaurants aren't. That just tells me that they don't eat at these places, but they need their hair done. Food for thought. Yeah, that's true. Hugh Prendergast gives us $6.99. Love what's going on with Reddit. Crony capitalists cry racism after getting on wrong end of short due to greed. Fake news crying now. Okay, so that's a little bit of, I think, what's going on with, what we were talking about earlier, but I don't know enough to even comment. I miss typewriters gives us $3.50. A pandemic does not suspend the Charter of Rights. Catherine S. gives us $10. Good morning, Rebels. Can you talk about Bell Let's Talk Day and how it fails to acknowledge that lockdowns are the cause of all of our mental health issues? That is, well, not all of our mental health issues, but I think it is creating some and exacerbating others. And I think my colleague Kian Bexty has a story coming out about that later. So please do stay tuned. Some controversy around Bell Let's Talk and their flag and the city of Calgary and their terrible, awful mayor. C182 OPR gives us $5. What chutzpah? Singh calls Proud Boys terrorists, but is banned from India because he won't disavow Khalistani terrorism. That is a great point. Yeah. Very good point. Annalisa S, $6.99. Justin. What do I get if I say Menzies 3 times?
Well, you get nothing for that, but I think you should get 3 guitars for saying Justin 3 times. There you go. One more. Thank you.
Thank you. Grinds my gears, $6.99. I don't see a super chat. C182 OPR, $5. I never thought I'd have more respect for lawyers than I do for police officers. Yeah, it's very sad. John Tory's just murdering the reputation of the police. Chris Lynch, $2. Alberta values before political loyalty. Thank you. Randy Smith, $5. Flying guitars matter. Michael Bear gives us $15. Great work, guys. Stay strong. The flack is thickest when you are over the target. Thank you. Joyful Heart, $5. What do you think the churches could win a case if they went to court challenging why they can have 10 people when stores, etc., have 50 to 80? I know in Alberta they changed the restrictions to now 15% of capacity, which is the same as retail space. But I think the Justice Center for Constitutional Freedoms might be doing some of the bigger lifting on the churches themselves. We've taken up the cause, I guess, of the parishioners who are getting ticketed. And I know, especially in BC, they're doing a lot of the heavy lifting when it comes to the charter issues with churches that were ordered closed.
Yeah, and I think when we get more into a degree of normal times, Sheila, the fallout from what we've seen in the last year, it's going to make for a lawyer's paradise with all the cases. I'm not just talking about ours. I'm just talking about things we don't even know about that are in the works surely right now. Right. I mean, I suppose we can deal with the broader charter issues down the road. Right now, we're trying to help individual people fight their individual fines, and we'll worry about the greater, grander legalities of it all as the ball rolls down the road. Yeah. Rosita Rendon, $50. No super chat. Thank you. Yuta Bercy, $6.99. Pair character lifting some weights, saying keep it up. You know what? I just remembered we have a challenge to the lockdown in Saskatchewan happening right now. That's right. We
issued a challenge to the entire lockdown in Saskatchewan. So while I just said the JCCF is doing a lot of the heavy lifting with churches, we are trying to currently free the entire province of Saskatchewan from their unconstitutional lockdown. So that's something that we're doing. Justin, I forget the URL there. Maybe you could whisper that in my ear. It's at opensaskatchewan.com, so you can see all of the work that we're doing there and support our efforts at opensaskatchewan.com. Thanks, Justin. I did University. Salty Canadian, $10. I wish our restaurant in Sarre, Alberta, the Fireside, would contact you. I did hear about the Fireside. Somebody at the Whistle Stop told me about them. I know they're on my list of places to contact. But I haven't been able to just make the time to get in touch with them. But I will, I promise, because they opened and got $1,000 fine.
Oh,
the AHS officer, these horrible little job-killing bureaucrats, never had so much power in their lives, unearned power. They were screaming at patrons. It was disappointing to be an Albertan. Okay, I am going to, on my way down to Red Deer today, I'm going to call up to Sarre.
And hopefully there was somebody took video of that, Sheila.
Yeah.
And by the way, I just want to say this as almost like a public service announcement. If you're operating a business and bylaw or health officials, anyone come to give you a hard time, get out your cell phone and start recording it. And don't fall for this, garbage. I don't give you my consent to record. You don't need their consent. Just record it. And two things, it makes a record for what's happening. It's no longer he said, she said, and it tends to modify their bully behavior when they know they're being recorded. So I just want to put that out to the folks there, Sheila.
Yeah, yesterday at the Noble Fox in Bashaw, the health inspector came and said, we got an anonymous complaint that you have patrons dining in. And he's like, yeah. And he's like, well, I need to come in and see. And the owner, little Carlos, he said, well, there's windows here. You can see there's people eating in there. He's like, I'm not letting you in. He's like, I'm not letting you in. And you can just look through the windows and the patrons are like they're just waving. But they really wanted to come in. And he's like, no, you're not coming in. He's like, you can make an appointment.
Love it.
I love it. It was so great. And that guy, he's an immigrant from El Salvador, and he chose small town Alberta as a place to live out his dream. And the government is just crushing him. And so he's taking a stand. And
Unbelievable.
When he talks about Little Bashaw, he grabs his chest because he's so in love with the town and the town loves him back. It's everything I love about small town Alberta, and it's everything the big city doesn't understand about us. They call us racist. They call us xenophobic, that we're unwelcoming to newcomers. He's been fully embraced by the community, and the community is willing to get a $1,200 fine to support him.
That's incredible.
Anyway, C182 OPR, $5. I get that rank and file can't refuse duty and keep their jobs, but police unions should be speaking for them. Time for a blue flu pandemic. Yeah, that's a great point. Toys are for boys, 666. Liberals voted down Bill C-238, ban firearms from legal owners, but let criminals and gun smugglers off the hook. Darren Turner, $6.99. Fauci can't even throw a baseball. That is true. Ken Hill.
Did you ever see that toss? I think that was at the Washington's ballpark. The only thing that comes close to that is Bubba Booey's throw at. If you Google that, Howard Stern's producer, Gary Delabate. But that is the worst throw I might have seen in my life. Right?
Ken Hiller gives us $5, no super chat. Terrell Sandyke, $5. Doug Antoinette needs to get head out of his arse. And as for John Tory, he needed to be held accountable. Keep up the fight. We will. Our team will be back out in full force again on Saturday. Randy Smith, awesome flying guitar. Beautiful. Randy Smith, $5. Keep them coming. Flying guitar. Jim Rat, $5. It doesn't make any sense why Justin Trudeau is so sneaky and snarky about the quarantine hotels. Rebels' questions are not unreasonable, and JT making us more worried. Terrell Sandyke. Where is the fake Lemieux? Is Yager next? Patrick, Brown stories make me laugh. Need more David. Love all of you at Rebel. Keep it up.
I know what he's talking about now.
Yeah. Fake Mario Lemieux. Peter GTA Tours gives us $5, and I don't see a super chat, and I think we are finally all caught up.
Wow, 20 minutes
20
into extra play. Well, folks, thank you so much. You were so super generous to us, and thank you to Justin and Sheila. On behalf of myself, David Menzies, Sheila and I will see you next week on Tuesday. Tomorrow, the big boss man himself takes over. In the meantime, one more super chat.
I don't see it.
We don't see it. Oh.
Is it up? Yeah. Nope. Peter GTA Tours? Nope, there it is. Trent Poole, $20. Pair character sliding on the floor on his knees saying goal. And that's it now.
Thank you. And every dollar counts, so thank you for that. So until we meet again, folks, stay sane.